rev up your engines. Today I'm going to show you how you can figure out what's wrong with your car using this little bitty plastic test bottle. I had somebody show me a car that had been at another shop for 3 weeks. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. I kind of thought, let's test the gasoline. They did all kinds of electrical, mechanical tests, but they didn't say anything about testing the gasoline. This ethanol testing kit costs less than $10, doesn't cost anything. It can test the level of ethanol in your gasoline. And you might ask, why is there ethanol, commonly known as alcohol, in my gasoline? So here's the story behind it. When I was a young mechanic, they used leaded gas. That's the only gas you could buy was leaded gas. And they put lead into the gasoline as both a lubricant for the valves, the metal parts, and as an octane booster to raise the octane so the engines didn't knock when you were accelerating and knock, 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 knock. The lead would stop such pre-ignition, but of course, as we found out, maybe the Romans never knew, that might have led to their decline, lead is not good for you whether you drink it or breathe it in. And since it was in the car's gasoline, you were breathing fumes out. Lead is not good. So they took the lead out. Back in 1990, they passed a law that said you got to take all the lead out of gasoline by the year 1995. So there's no more leaded gas in the United States. But they had to replace the lead with something, so they replaced it with a chemical called MTBE. And this MTBE both oxygenated the fuel so it burned cleaner and raised the octane level so the engines wouldn't knock when you accelerate, especially with higher compression engines. Now this additive worked perfectly fine, at least for the machines, but not so great for people, because it turned out that the MTBE was getting spilled into groundwater from underground tank leaks and stuff. So that was the end of that. They had to get rid of that and replace it with something else. And much to the pleasure of Midwest corn farmers, they decided to replace it with ethanol, alcohol that's made from corn, mainly in the United States. Ethanol actually burns very clean, and it raises the octane level of gasoline. It's got two major problems with it. Ethanol has less British thermal units, BTU, less energy than gasoline. So if you ran a car with 100% ethanol in it, you would get about 20% worse gas mileage than you would with the same amount of gasoline because it has less energy. And two, in higher concentration, the ethanol can destroy rubber products in the car, really absorbs water a lot, so you can end up with too much water in your gas tank. So it's got its downsides too. But that said, the ethanol is in use in American gasoline. The most common use is 10% ethanol and 90% gasoline. Look at the pumps. A lot of times it'll say may contain 10% ethanol. Well, if it says may, that means that almost always that's what's in it. Now, such gasoline has additives in it so that little bit of ethanol doesn't damage anything. Now, let's say if you've got one of those flex fuel cars that'll run on all kinds of different fuels, and those you can use E85, which is 85% ethanol and 15% gasoline. But flex fuel cars that can use that have special fuel pumps, fuel lines, fuel injectors, sensors. They got all kinds of stuff so that they can run on any variety of ethanol gasoline mix. They'll work perfectly fine, but only in those flex fuel cars. If you have a normal car that isn't flex fuel, do not put the E85 in it, because if you have too much ethanol in your fuel in a normal car, it's not going to run right, it's going to absorb a lot of water. But really, how the heck are you going to know what's in your gas tank? Well, this little test kit comes in really handy. I had a car towed over here a few weeks ago. I did this test and found out that the vehicle had almost 30% ethanol in a car that could only run 10% max. I ended up draining the gas tank, changing the fuel filter, and then the car ran perfectly fine. And this was after somebody else had worked on the car for weeks and weeks, couldn't figure out what's wrong. Just get a sample of the gasoline. Take the cap off, and I'm going to use this little pump I got in AutoZone for less than $10. It just goes right in, and then just pump a sample out. As you can see here, you fill it up to water here, to this line. Here's some tap water, not gasoline, tap water. We fill it to the little line there. There, now it's right at the line. There it is right on the water fill line. Now we fill it up to the gasoline fill line, which is the top line here. Then what do? Put the top on tight, shake it up. That mixes it all up, and it's going to tell us how much ethanol is in that gasoline. Now, as you can see, it's settling down. The line's coming down. We wait until it stops settling. You need patience. As you can see, it's starting to settle. I'd say, give it a good 10-15 minutes. Okay, as you can see, it's settled out now. And it's between 15 and 20. I'd say it looks like about 17% ethanol is in it. So that's way too much ethanol. It's supposed to be a maximum of 10%. Now, like I said, if you had a flex fuel car, that can run on E85. That's 85% ethanol. And that would run perfectly fine on this. Because the flex fuel cars can run on any amount of ethanol from 0% to 85% ethanol. The sensors and the computers and the fuel pump, they can handle that, and they tell the computer how much ethanol is in the fuel. They have ways of testing it with their sensors so that it can set up the car to run. If it's 20%, it'll run on that. If it's 40%, it'll run on that. But in a normal modern car that isn't flex fuel, you do not want more than 10% ethanol in your fuel. And in this case, it was about 17%, which is bad. And in the case of the vehicle I fixed a few weeks ago, the ethanol content was almost 30%. I had to drain the gas tank, change the fuel filter, and then I filled it up with super with some Shell V-Power gas, and then drove it around for a day or two, and it went totally back to normal. And the only way I would have ever figured that out was with a simple little test kit. Hey, who would have thought you needed a science kit to fix your car? But hey, that's modern technology for you. And since this is Mechanic Monday, I'm giving away one of these kits. To have a chance to win, just place a clean, non-offensive comment on the YouTube comments below, and the winner will be chosen randomly by computer. So that if your car isn't running right and has you pulling your hair out because you can't figure out why, you'll be able to figure out if it's in your gasoline because there's too much ethanol in it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.